Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Real Producers Live. We're going to have Jordan Espeseth today as the host. I am Lyndon Wilson, creator of The Difference. And I like to come on before every show and tell everybody a little bit about what we've created here at The Difference over the past about 19 months, I guess. We created this. This originally started as a radio show itself, and we have transformed it in the last 19 months into a network for small business owners, entrepreneurs, real estate professionals, independent contractors to help them become more visible and get their word out, their message out to the people in the communities that they serve. And so if you are someone in those communities, in the communities of DFW area, and you believe in the mantra of buy local, shop local, and hire local. We want to bring those people to you and show you who is out there that is worthy of your time and will take care of you. And one of the things that we want to be able to do is just show the human side of these businesses, that they're not just all about what they do, but who they are and how they're active within our communities and what they're doing to help grow those communities and serve the communities. And just want to now introduce Jordan real quick. Jordan and I met about 2 years ago, and I really connected with him simply because of his authenticity and his unique, and I hate to use that word unique in today's market, but his unique vision on how to help people connect and grow their businesses. And the Real Producers platform, I think, has done an outstanding job within the real estate industry. So I want to bring him on now. What's up, Jordan?
What's up, Landon, man? How are you?
I'm good. I am good. Another show today. We're, as I told you before, we're adding more and more shows. It's an exciting time for The Difference, and I want to let everybody know how much you have helped The Difference and your team. You, Rochelle, Lance. We always got to give those two a shout out. But I can't stress enough how much I appreciate our relationship, what we've done together, and just the community that you're building. And I'm fortunate enough to be a part of that. So thank you.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate that. It's crazy that it's already been a year that we started, working together, and we took a brief hiatus in there, but like you said, we revamped the show. We're back at it. And man, I don't think we're streaming live to YouTube on this show, but I think next show will be streaming live to YouTube. Then we'll have everything on Spotify and iTunes as well. And so progression, I'm loving it. Things are only getting better, and the show's been a blast to have. It's been really great, a unique way for us to connect our business partners with us and other top agents that they work with. It's been really cool, man. So I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that I have always stressed in doing and creating The Difference and marketing it is I help small business owners understand that most businesses don't struggle or fail because they have a bad product or service. They struggle or fail because not enough people know what they're doing and who they are. And if we can change that with these small businesses, we can help someone, because I've been an entrepreneur for 30 years. There's been ups and downs and challenges. Jordan, you know what I'm talking about. We've had those discussions before. It's not always that social media highlight reel that you see everybody. Most entrepreneurs at some point in time have struggled through some challenges. And a lot of that can be solved just by more people knowing who we are, because there's people out there that need us. They just don't know we're here. And so, what you're doing with Real Producers and what you're doing with this show, that fits right in, and I see a lot of progress being made with all the ones you're working with.
Absolutely. Oh, you're cutting out there, Landon. Are we clear on my side? It looks like you're cutting out a little bit.
Okay, I'm not sure you're cutting out just a little every once in a while, but I'm not sure. I think everybody may be having some internet issues today.
I think so too. Hopefully, we should be like Denton. He wired in. I need to start doing that. But yeah, no, I'm excited, man. I'm excited for this show. A couple people that I highly love and recommend and respect, and just could not think more highly of hopping on this show with us today. And so I'm excited to get them on the show and introduce them.
Okay, well, let's bring them in. You ready?
Well, let's do it. Let's see. I'm going to do it one by one. Let's start. Who should I pick? Let's start with a guy that I've known for quite a while. He's someone that has been a partner of ours for almost 3 years now. He runs 100% construction. He's a good friend of mine as well. And so go ahead and bring on Chris Carr.
There he is.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
What's up,
Welcome,
Chris?
Oh man, living the dream.
I love it. Well, hang tight while I introduce the next person that happens to be the person that when we brought Real Producers here 3 years ago, he was the very first person to have his pretty face on the first cover of North DFW Real Producers, and also a good friend, and that is Mr. Denton Aguam with the Dare Network, Keller Williams. What's going on, Denton?
Hey, Jordan, what's up, buddy? Yeah, that was some good times 3 years ago. I don't know about pretty face, but yes, I was honored and proud to be on the cover for Real Producers launch here in DFW.
Absolutely, man. It's crazy. I was looking, our next issue that we're deadlining on tomorrow is the 3-year issue. And I was like, man, it's crazy how much time has passed and yeah, long. I can't tell if it's been. It feels like it's been a long time, or if it's been like super quick. And like, time is a crazy thing. But either way, excited to be here. Excited to have you guys on, and I'm gonna let you guys do a quick little thing, because I want everyone to know a little bit more about each of you guys as well, and then we'll kind of hop into some different questions and stuff like that. But Chris, why don't you start, man? Tell us a little bit about, we've been partnered, like I said, for almost 3 years now. You were recommended by another great, a few different people, but for one, Lance Taylor, who's someone that we both have a lot of love and respect for. Tell us a little bit about you. Tell us about your business a little bit, and fill everybody in on Chris Carr and 100% Construction.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it, and I love getting together, especially with this group of people. So I really appreciate that. But yeah, I've owned 100% Construction and Storm Restoration for almost 5 years now, and we are kind of a little atypical, if you will, as far as roofing companies are concerned, because we're not structured like most of them. We've got really, really great relationships with real estate agents and insurance agents, and our bread and butter is really becoming a part of your team and making sure that everybody on your team is taken care of, and that any opportunity that you have that requires our assistance is taken care of in a way that makes you always look like you're the best of the best, right? And we like to pass that, any kind of accolades or any sort of like save the day type stuff that we do, we like to pass that along to our agents and really make their customers feel like they got the #1 A+ customer service. And we do that by handling our business in such a way that it really, it takes all the stress out of transactions, and it makes sure that everything closes on time, 99% of the time. And that's a big part of what we do, is just making sure that our real estate partners understand we want to be a part of their team, and that we want to help them grow their business, not just roof their houses.
How long ago did you start 100% again, Chris?
4.5 years. I've been in the industry longer than that. 4.5 years was when I started the company.
How and why did you get into starting this business?
Man, I was in oil and gas for 10 years, and I had a really good career out there, and then everything kind of went haywire with oil and gas, and we ended up getting laid off. And I made what I thought was going to be a 3-month stopover in roofing. I was planning on going back to school, and thank God this didn't happen, but I was going to actually go back to school to go to law school. And I just saw a big gap in the industry, man. And I realized that there was a large opportunity for people doing the right things for the right reasons. And there was a big area that we could really come in and capitalize on, that was based off of doing the right things, forming the right relationships, and just taking care of people. And then I really enjoyed it once I started doing it. And my wife kind of said, if you're good at it, you like it, and there's money in it, why don't you just make a career out of it and start your own thing? And that's kind of how it all got started. I never really saw it ending up here, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
I was just looking at the website, Stop the Knocking. Tell me a little bit more about it.
Yes,
Stop the Knocking. Where did that come from?
I tend to turn everything to comedy. That's just kind of me as a person. I'm pretty lighthearted and like to kind of joke. And when we were trying to figure out our website, I wanted something that people could remember if they were sitting at a stoplight and saw it like on a pickup truck. And obviously, www.100%constructiontx.com is not something you're going to remember, 4 or 5 miles down the road or after you get to the grocery store. But if you've ever lived through a hailstorm, the number one complaint that people have is, man, my door's getting hit. I've had 55 people knock on my door in 24 hours and people are going crazy. And I was looking at the websites and stoptheknocking.com was available. And I went, man, that's something everybody can really relate to after they've lived through it. So you always know if somebody's lived through a hailstorm, because if they have, they're like, dude, I love your website. If they ask, well, I don't understand what it means, then they've never gone through the door knocking thing.
Amen.
Yeah. I'm sure. Knocking then.
Sorry, Jordan, you cut out pretty bad there. What was that?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Again, dang internet issues, man. I'm not sure if that's going to continue to be a problem. But I was asking, do you guys do any door knocking? I know that's pretty common within roofing. Do you guys do a level of that still? Yeah,
we do, and especially for our new guys, there's no way to get into this industry and be successful without getting out and kind of pounding the streets, and that's one of the things that we really like to talk about, is because there is a negative perception of door knocking, but at the end of the day, most sales professionals have to do it. I mean, even real estate professionals, right? When you're first getting started in the industry, you got to make your cold calls, you got to knock your doors, and we like to tell our people, I understand that it's not something you want to do, but what's important to realize is that you're giving somebody an honest, legitimate service. And unlike a lot of people in our industry, we're telling people what they need, not what we want, right? Because it's real easy for new people to come on and treat other people's bank accounts as their personal piggy banks, right? They get up and they see an opportunity and they just go, oh, you definitely need to get this roof done. And then it turns out you didn't need to do it. And that's what gives people in our industry a bad name. But the level of training that we have for our people, the level of respect we have for our homeowners, and ethics and integrity that we have when we talk to every single customer, we're not this sleazy door knock company. It's, we're going to shoot you straight. We're going to tell you what you need. And we're not in the business of replacing roofs that don't need to be replaced. So we do still get out and do that. But most of our business is referral. You can knock one door, deliver a 5-star service, and never have to knock a door again, as long as you understand the referral system and how to give people the type of customer service that they want to introduce their friends, family, and neighbors to.
Amen. I like that.
Yeah, I love that. And you've built a really cool business, and you got some cool things that you're doing. And so I want to talk more about that in a second, about mindset and kind of some of the things that you're doing. But I want to bring on Den here for a second and just have Den again, man, introduce yourself a little bit, where you're at with your team, Keller Williams, how you got into everything, and introduce yourself.
Yeah. So first, my name is Den Guam. I'm the owner and founder of the Dare Network. Been in business, I think now it's about 19 years, right? A long time. I can't believe I'm saying that. First, Jordan, thanks for having me on. Chris, good to see you as well. Chris is a vendor of ours. He does a tremendous job as well, so I can speak firsthand to everything he's saying. And Jordan, too, man, quick shout out to you. The last 36 months, what you've done with Real Producers, amazing. So congrats on all that success as well.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
So I've been in the business, like I said, 19 years. To kind of shorten my journey, I was an individual agent for about 10 of those years. Just kind of waking up, trying to find that next deal. I would say I was pretty immature when it comes to business. I was just really trying to crank out some deals. In 09, 010, that's kind of when I had some major changes in my life. Lost my father. I won't go deep into that. It's totally okay. But he was battling cancer. And when he passed, you kind of have moments in your life, you look at things a little differently. And that was one of them. So I almost got out of real estate, actually. 2011, 2012, I was like, is this really what I want to do? I was a guy that self-admitted workaholic. I'd work 7 days a week, burn the midnight oil. And I was fine with that, totally cool with that. But how was I going to raise a beautiful family and marry somebody and do all that great stuff? So I started building what's called the network, or why we call the Dare Network, where I wanted to build a company where we can continue to expand, help other agents build their business, all in while build a scalable product or business that could go into many different areas. And that's kind of where I am right now and where the challenge lies. And I've had lots of ups and downs, learned a lot, made lots of failures, but the team is amazing. They're top 100 in Texas, 1% in the country. They'll do anywhere from 180 homes to 200 plus homes a year. And we have big goals to continue to expand on that. And I say they because they are the ones doing it. I'm just focusing on leading and training and growing the company.
You're just a pretty face that oversees it,
I'm
all,
just
right?
pretty face. I mean, come on.
How long did you step out of production, Denton?
So I would say, they would say a long time. I want to go back in my head. I think 2015, maybe 14, right around there, about 5 years or so. I haven't been, physically in production.
Okay. Yeah, so it's been a little while. Do you like do you miss the production side, or are you loving where you're at with leading the team right now?
I mean, it's different, right? I miss the production side because that's the hunt. That's going and helping clients out. I mean, this week I helped one of our agents who's in Hawaii right now go show some clients. Awesome young couple, 3-month-old baby, and I helped them make an offer on a house yesterday. I just got an email before we get on this that it looks like they may be working our deal, and it's just great when you see a young couple like that get into their first house. So I do miss that piece, right? Helping them and making sure they make the right decision, answering the questions. But I also love helping people, right? And now instead of helping people buy, sell, or invest in real estate on a day-to-day basis, I'm helping individual people on my team grow their personal wealth or grow their personal business, or how to get through things or challenges they have in their life. Not just real estate; it could be any area of life, and that has been very rewarding. Very challenging. Don't get me wrong, Jordan. Very challenging, but also very rewarding. And I think if you can build on that, right? We have it's called a bold law, but your business grows to the extent that you do. And ultimately that means is that your business is only going to grow to the extent of where you're at, where your mindset is at, which I know you brought up mindset. I just got a text from one of my team members. They said it's been 7 years since I've been in production. So they like reminding me that
You should.
That's awesome.
You should start that clock over now that you showed that house. You should.
I mean, right, technically it's 24 hours, Jordan, if you really want to know.
Yeah. Still in production. Yeah. Exactly. No, that's great. Well, what I love is you, me, Chris. I mean, one of the things that we all have in common right now is we're definitely in a growth mode. We're all expanding. We've all started to build teams and continue to grow that. And there's a lot of interesting things that we can talk about in terms of mindset and struggles and all the things that come along with it. I'm curious, how did you and Chris meet again? When did you guys first meet? How long have you guys been doing some work together?
I don't remember exactly how we met. I don't know if Denton knows this, but I mean, I kind of stalked him, right? I was kind of, obviously when I set out with the goal of building a business model around relationships with realtors and insurance agents, there's a couple of team leaders or different owners that would be high on your radar. And the Dare Network was about as high as it got for me, because I looked at the people who were not only doing big things in the industry, but that were doing it the right way, right? That were doing it for that marathon, not a sprint business model. So I had the chance to listen to Denton speak at a couple different things. And one of the things that I loved was he talked about continuous education, never ending training for his team. And then more than that, like having a vested interest in everybody that walks through the door, which is something that we do as well. So I remember sitting down and thinking, like, that's somebody that I can, if I can manage to get in the door and show him what we can do, that's somebody that I can grow with. That's somebody that we can be working 10 years down the road. So I think from the first time I actually heard Denton speak at an event to the time that I got into his office was probably, it was probably 18 months, and then I went in, and it's kind of funny because I went in with the objective of, I want to be this team's roofing guy. And afterwards, I didn't even talk about roofing. I went up and said, hey, do you mind if I kind of steal how you run your team meetings? And there's a lot of stuff that he does as an owner that is just, it's very effective. It's very straightforward. And more than anything, it gives you the ability to quantify all your numbers. And I remember sitting through his team meeting going, holy crap, he just did in 5.5 minutes what would take me half an hour to do. And that's when I realized I didn't want to just be the guy who does his roofing. I wanted to learn from him as a business owner, because obviously 19 years experience, he's learned a ton. So if you look at the way that we run our sales meetings, the first 15 minutes is, you replace real estate with roofing from the way that he runs it. And that's the way we do our meetings.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
I'm glad I could help, man. That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's cool.
And
That's
Jordan,
cool. What?
I think honestly, we met at one of your events 3 years ago.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think it was a real producer event that you brought. So you brought us together.
Look at that.
Was that the one that Concrete Cowboy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And then we went out and played golf.
Yeah. And I found out that he's a lot better at golf than I am.
Yes, Denton. I've chosen to not put myself in that situation where I golf with Denton because I'm just gonna. I don't have the skills that Denton has, and I've heard he's pretty dang good. So
we're switching it up. I texted him the other day and I said, "Hey man, let's get away from the golf course. Let's go shoot some skeet and trap. Let's do that. They may all stand a chance."
Chris, you mentioned you're hunting down Denton, if you will. You've worked with a lot of different agents. What is there a big difference when you work with? I mean, obviously we talk about real producers being with like the top 500 agents, these professionals. You've worked with so many different types of agents. How does it work? How is it different working with Denton's team and those people compared to maybe agents that are the ones that are kind of kicking tires and not doing a whole lot? What's the biggest difference in that relationship?
The biggest difference for me is that there's not this massive turnover. And it's something that Denton and we've talked about a lot. And I've asked him, because obviously there's a lot of agents that get into real estate and they've got to figure out which direction they want to go. Do they want to be on a team? Do they want to be an individual agent? Do they want to figure out themselves? And one of the things that he does better than most is training his team. And, when you've got somebody who takes as much pride in training their team as he does, that I don't have to worry about making new relationships with new agents every 2 or 3 months because the turnover rate is so fast, right? I know that if I have somebody that's on his team and they're being trained by him, that they're going to understand well enough to actually be successful in real estate, and that I'm going to be able to work with them long term. And it gets to the point where, I've had transactions with people on his team that's a quick text message, and it's, hey, here's the name, here's the address, here's what I need, get it knocked out. We'll jump on the ball, we knock it out of the park, and then text him back a day later, say problem is solved. And it's literally 2 or 3 text messages and everything's taken care of. And that's the way that we prefer to do it, obviously, because we don't want to have to train people on how to work effectively with us as much as an owner, you don't want to have to train people every 2 or 3 months because you're replacing them. So I think that's the biggest thing is knowing people who really understand their craft, who have taken the time to really hone their skills and can deliver in the same way every time. And it's kind of a process that you can expect versus trying to figure out how to juggle all the balls in the air and start over, stop, start. It's just really easy when you've got somebody who's that great at training to keep that relationship going and just form a relationship that's just Johnny on the spot.
I want to jump in real quick if you don't mind, Jordan, because one of the things when we started, Chris and Denton, when we started the difference, we were looking for the characteristics and components that made the difference in going from, say, mediocre to elite. And we had 600 interviews last year, and one of the things that always stands out, we mentioned this earlier, this mindset, right? Everybody, you got to have the right mindset. But what I've noticed, I think, would come in second is the culture, is developing the culture within the company that has your identity and builds that know, like, and trust factor. And Chris, I know you've already talked about it, but I want you and Denton both to touch on that a little bit. How important is that culture when you're trying to partner with, say, strategic partners or vendors or someone like that? When they walk in and they see that, there becomes a love fest kind of, right? When you see that culture you want to be a part of, and it gives you a certain amount of confidence to partner with those people. Would you agree with that? Is that something that's important that y'all actually think about,
Absolutely.
intentionally?
Absolutely. I think the best example of that, Lyndon, is, let's say you're traveling, right, in Mexico, and you're on a trip to Mexico, and you see somebody and you see a Dallas Cowboys shirt, right? And you're like, oh, you're from Dallas, I'm from Dallas. And instantly you become best friends, right? Or you have a common culture, or you're traveling in Europe, right? And then you run into another American. Oh, you're from Chicago, I'm from Texas. And then you become best friends. You have that immediate understanding of values, right? And I think that's what you're saying. So when Chris and I get together, we understood we both really respect business and really want to improve ourselves personally and also our team, because it's the law of the lid. My company can only grow as big as I'm going to think or grow personally, right? And that's part of our culture that we make sure and focus on. And I want that for everybody in my organization. For some people, that's a little tougher. For others, it's a little easier, because you kind of have to let go of who you are coming to this business to go to where you want to go. Meaning, there's a great book that says, what got you here today is not what's going to get you there tomorrow.
Right.
You kind of have to say, well, everything that I did to get here, I got to let go and push forward to get better. Some people don't like doing it, right? Or some people just stay at the level they're at. So yeah, culture is super important. We kind of equate it into two words, and we call it love and results on the team. You want to love the people that you're with, but you also have to get results. You have to get, you have to score, essentially, if you relate it to a game.
Right. Well, I think also, Denton, that, when you have that culture and you can connect with those core values with someone like Chris, you're both pulling in the same direction. And sometimes I think we end up partnering with people that may not share our core values totally. And there's kind of some resistance there, right? There's some resistance, and kind of what you were talking about as a person coming into both of your businesses, your culture is your brand and your identity, right? That's what you're working hard to build. And so I've been there. I've gone into work for other people before, and it's almost like you have to have a transformation to be more, in line with the culture there. So I think that's so important. I love talking about that, because I think that a lot of us miss the importance of that sometimes. And I think the importance that we miss is how productive it can be when we stand firm on our culture, on our core values, and we start to attract those like-minded people. And that's where we really, I think, can see so much growth and productivity increase.
Yeah, I've heard it said before, and I'm going to butcher this, but it's the intangible force that you can't see that holds everything together, right? It's kind of like when you go home to your family Thanksgiving or Christmas and you bring an outsider in or a friend in. You can't really explain it. You can only experience it.
Wow, that's good. You didn't butcher that. That was really good.
Well, I probably didn't say it the way they said it, but I did my best explaining it.
Poetic. Yeah. Dan, we actually named your article was titled Love and Results. If I remember that right.
It is. It's titled. We talked a lot about culture, Jordan.
Yep. Yeah, we did. We did talk a lot about that. And hey, Lennon, I think it might be my internet, by the way, and if it is cutting out, I might have to have you take the lead. But if I'm not cutting out, let me know. Or if I am, let me know. But one thing I want to touch on, because I mentioned all of us seem to be growing teams, and when you start hiring people and doing that whole thing, there's always, you mentioned, Lennon, there's a lot of challenges and struggles that go with it. For one, either Chris or Denton, you guys can both take this, but what were some of the challenges what are some of the biggest challenges that you've had when it's just you and you're the one kind of managing your business, that's, and then all of a sudden you add on another person and then another person, and then now there's systems and all these things. Like, what has been some of what's the biggest challenge that you guys have had to deal with, or some of the challenges that you deal with in terms of just the growth that happens within the organization? And how have you had to overcome that?
How much time do we have?
We got plenty of time.
Denton, if you want to take that first, go ahead, and I'll.
It's up to you. I mean, I'll talk about one thing, and you can, because there's multiple things, Jordan, without a doubt. I'll go with the first question you ask is, how do you go from an individual to building a team? Which I think a lot of people, they want to do that, but they struggle. Well, first, I found out that leading myself is a lot easier than leading other people. So you had to hone your leadership skills. Now, what does that mean? Well, do what you say. Are you approaching everything systematic, or are you just relying on just kind of a go mentality? So you kind of said systems and models. I realized you can't build a business just on the way that, let's say, I do things, right? It's not scalable, right? And not everybody's going to do it that way, but you can build a business on correct systems and models. One of my mentors said to me, you can make an ordinary person extraordinary with great systems, models, and training. And when I focused on that, that helps me continue to build the organization because everybody's different and unique, right? You have some people that are hard drivers. You have some people that aren't hard drivers, but they both can succeed in the right system and model and win, if that makes sense. So getting over that hump and saying, well, everybody's not going to do it like I want to do it, but there is a best practice that everybody can do it, and kind of getting over yourself, if you will, kind of my ego of like, what's got to be done this way, probably was the best and continuing thing that I've got to do to continue to grow my organization. I don't know if that's what you're looking for, but that's the first thing that came to my mind when you talk about going from individual to team.
And then creating those systems, I've realized is like, to actually put that in a way that's scalable, that other people can use the same systems like that. That's an art, man. Like figuring out CRMs and processes and workflows and all that stuff like that. That's a total mind shift.
I bet there's a great video John Maxwell did, and it's called IGT, and it just stands for individual, group, and team. And if you can imagine a check mark, and on the beginning of the check mark's the I, the bottom of the check mark's the G, and the top of the check mark is the T. Every time you go from individual and add somebody, you go to a group. And when you go to a group, you actually drop in efficiency and effectiveness because you got to train, you got to give them the culture. As Lyndon said, you got to get them going. But if you do it correctly, and in our world, that's about 60 to 90 days, you raise the level of what the team can do, right? And you see this all the time. How fast did Tampa Bay go from a team that was okay to a group to a team that won a Super Bowl one season because they got the right person, Tom Brady, right? So you see that all the time, individual, group, team, and every time you add something new to the group, whether it be a system, model, or person, you do go back to that group just for a small amount of time, but that's to lift the level of what you can succeed or do over time, which gets you to that team level, if that makes sense. Probably better.
I think that is probably the thing that's really hard for people to grasp is when you do go from, because not only do you have to slow down to train so you're not doing the same amount of seemingly income producing activities, plus your expenses just went up. So you slowed down, you've added more expenses. And it's a weird spot where you're just like, if you don't have the understanding of it, that's a weird place to experience for the first time.
And it's not guaranteed, Jordan, that it's going to work out.
Right.
Just like it wasn't guaranteed that Tom Brady was going to work out Tampa Bay. A lot of people thought it was a dumb move. Clearly it wasn't, right? But you had to take that risk that, okay, if I grow and bring on this team, you will lose some profits. But the profit you will make in the future, in the next level you get to, is what you're really shooting for.
So let me ask this with the processes, and I agree with that 100%. But how important are processes and systems in creating consistency? Isn't consistent? I mean, I've always heard you can be good, but you can't be great until you're consistently good. And isn't that what the processes and the systems do, is help create that consistency?
Oh, absolutely. Chris, feel free to talk on that. We call it the execution gap on our team, and we track it with those numbers that Chris saw on our team. But yeah, if you're not going to wake up and train for a marathon and run a mile every day and 2 miles the next day, you eventually aren't going to be able to run that marathon. And it's just consistent of waking up and putting one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I'll kind of expand on that and what Denton was just talking about. I mean, and there's a lot to unpack there, but systems and the processes are everything, right? And without them, you don't have a business. You may have a little bit of a cash flow machine, but that thing's not going to be able to scale. And, one of the things that Denton said earlier that I think needs to be highlighted is you've got to check your ego, and you've got to recognize, what did I do to get here? What was the actual action? And what did I get because of my personality or the way that I do business? Because I can't go get 25 people off the street and teach them how to be me. And if I try to teach them how to be me, it's going to be very disingenuous when they're talking to their customers or clients, and it's not going to work out. And people are going to know that this isn't really the way that they operate. They're just working off of kind of a script, and nobody wants that. So I think when it comes to the systems and processes and it comes to the growth of the company, the most important thing you can do is educate your team on why you do what you do. Educate your team on why you make the decisions you make. If somebody's been with you for 6 months or a year or 2 years and they have to come and ask you a question, what do I do in this scenario? That's not a good job as a leader, because what they should do is understand, why is this thought process the way that it is to make this decision? So for instance, in the roofing industry, it's really simple. My guys don't have to call and say, what do I do in this scenario? The answer is always do what's right for the customer, right? So if somebody comes to me and they go, hey, I had to go, it's a silly example, but hey, I had to go spend an extra $200 on a job because we needed to correct this and we didn't know about it beforehand. The answer to that is always, that's what needs to be done, because you've got to educate your team on how you do, why you do, what you do. And then once you do that, you have the ability to step away from a micromanagement type of scenario and get into what we like to refer to as that decentralized command, which is, here's our objective, here's what we're wanting to accomplish, here's how we want to accomplish it, kind of here's your lane, stay in between these two lines and let's get there together. If you have any questions, please let me know, right? And then we can do that. But you can't micromanage. You can micromanage 2 or 3 people to be successful, but you can't micromanage 25 people to be successful. It's never going to work. So the idea is not how do I get people to do what I want? The idea is, and obviously this is, you take into account, you're assuming that people have ethical business practices, but as long as somebody has ethical business practices, the idea is, how do I educate my team to make the right decision based on our culture, our company values, and our ethics? And then we can kind of step back and let people get done what they want to get done. And the second part to that, as far as processes and systems are concerned, I think that that's something that needs to be checked regularly. So we just brought on a full-time production manager that's a brand new addition to the team. And, when we sat down after he had a pretty lengthy interview process, but once we sat down on his first day, he said, so just to be clear, like, what exactly do you want me to do? And my answer was, I want you to consider the fact that all of our systems and processes are based on, they're designed because of the last person that was doing it, designed them to work for him. And we can't scale that into multiple locations in multiple states if everything is based on, we're doing it because this is how somebody else did it because it makes sense to them. So his jobs, and he's very systems and process oriented, his job is to completely tear apart all of our systems, take them all the way back to zero, and kind of put that, that McDonald's model in place, that as long as somebody comes in and they're competent and they understand the end goal, that they can sit down and we can scale multiple different locations in multiple different states without this direct micromanaging oversight, because we've got our systems so simplified and airtight that as long as you just follow the steps in the process, everything's going to go correctly. And that's what I think the most important thing is, as far as scalability is concerned, is making sure that your systems are scalable and that they're not designed around a particular individual, but more designed around how to do things correctly and be efficient and effective.
Very good.
Yeah, I love that. And man, I think we could all go on for probably, like you said, hours. How long can we talk about this? In terms of today, what I'm curious, because you guys are both building and have been building amazing businesses, and everyone has different reasons for why they do it. And I think Tony Robbins talks about people are motivated by either pain or pleasure, right? Either I'm going to succeed, this better future that I have for myself, my team, my family. A lot of people are also motivated by pain, right? I don't want to fail, because if I fail, my life would look like this. And I'll do anything to not go that direction. And that's kind of always been myself. Like, unfortunately, I do have a vision, and I love like what my life can be if I create that. But I'm also like, when I launched Real Producers, I was very much pushed by pain. I was like, if I don't make this happen, I have to go back to this 9-to-5 job. I don't want to do that. That's going to be hell for me. I would do anything to avoid the pain of not succeeding. And I think we all have different things that motivate us. And so I'm just curious for you guys, like, you guys could have done some 9-to-5, you guys could have done anything and been successful. I'm just curious why you chose what you're doing, and what is it that motivates you? Why do you get up? Like, what's the reason? Is there pain? Is there pleasure? Like, why do each of you do what you do? I'm curious.
Yeah, that's a great question, and quite, gosh, you could go so many ways with that. So let me say a couple things. One, to answer the question short, I did this board-breaking like visualization with one of my coaches. It was quite a big deal. You go 3 or 4 hours and you put your biggest fear on the board, and then you break the board with your hand. And great experience. If you ever can do it, I would recommend doing it. And my biggest fear or driving as far as pain was concerned was not ever fulfilling my potential. That's what I wrote on there. I still have the board to today. So that's my thing that drives me. Why is I've always, and I've received this from my parents, is I've always wanted the best that I could be no matter what I do. And that chip on my shoulder came from the story of my two parents, and I'll tell it shortly, is they both migrated over here in the 60s from the Philippines separately, not together. They met each other in New York. They're 18, 19 years old, 20 years old. One became a heart surgeon, my dad, and another one became a registered nurse, right, in the late 60s here in America. And they left their entire family, said, you got to go make something of yourselves. America's the place to go. And they did. And they gave me this tremendous opportunity, and then gave my kids, their grandkids, a tremendous opportunity to take advantage of what we have here in the States. So for me, I mean, I look at that and just realize how grateful and lucky I am. And if I waste a second of that opportunity, I'm not doing my parents justice, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
That's the big
100%.
picture.
That's
So,
a big motivator.
I'm gonna kind of throw you for a wild one and tell you I've got a very similar story. So my parents also immigrated here in the 80s, and I got to watch what it was like for immigrant parents, you know, to figure it out and struggle. And we didn't have a family system here. All of my family still lived in England, all the way across the pond, and aunts, uncles, and grandparents, and all that kind of stuff that you can rely on. We didn't have that. And I got to see exactly what Denton's talking about, you know, the extremely long nights, the tremendous amount of effort that's put in just in the hopes that you can create a better future for your kids. And, you know, I witnessed that growing up, and I didn't truly understand it. But looking back on it now and looking at the long hours and how my parents did, I kind of mirror exactly what Denton just said is you do feel a little selfish if you're not taking every second to be as successful as possible, because to get here took a tremendous amount of bravery and effort and selflessness from my family. So I'm in the same boat there. I would say that as far as why I do what I do, you know, the easiest way for me to put this without going into a very, very long drawn out explanation is I'm a very firm believer that everybody's personalities and the way that they act and the reason they do things is based on their kind of unique life experiences, right? And depending on your unique life experiences determines the type of person you are and what makes your gears turn and why you do the things that you do. And without going into too much detail, my unique life experiences turned me into a person that honestly, and this sounds kind of corny, it turned me into a person that's really obsessed with creating opportunity for other people. And that's why I do what I do. You know, I was really fortunate that I was offshore oil industry at a very young age. I started when I was 20 years old. And by the time I was 25, I didn't have to worry about money. You know, I mean, it's no secret that you get paid a ton out there. And I climbed the ranks really quickly. And I was 25 years old, and I didn't have to worry about where paychecks were coming from. And to be honest, if I'd been a little bit wiser with my finances, I probably wouldn't have ever had to worry about where it came from. But I did a good job of spending a lot of that. All of us. My point to that is, you know, my entire life, we didn't grow up with money. Again, that goes back to the immigrant parents thing who are struggling to make it. And for whatever reason, as a child, I always was chasing the dollar. I grew up in Midland, Texas. It's a big oil field town. And, you know, I had a lot of friends whose parents had Porsches and Ferraris and all kinds of cool stuff. And to me, that was the goal. And then I started making a tremendous amount of money for my age. And I realized that there wasn't a lot of fulfillment there. It was neat, right? I could travel the world, do a bunch of cool stuff, but I never felt fulfilled. And the first time that I truly felt that fulfillment that was lacking, that I thought I was going to get by chasing a dollar, was when I brought on my first team member and gave him the opportunity to get out of oil and gas, get away from the 85-hour weeks. He was working in Korea, Singapore, Africa. You know, he was doing the offshore overseas oil field life. And after his first year, we went and sat down, and he said, look, man, I'm not very good at the emotional, you know, like I'm not a very big feelings type person. And if y'all know who I'm talking about, you'll get that. And he said, I just want to tell you thank you, because I always knew that I could provide for my family. I knew that I could pay my mortgage. I knew that I could, you know, my wife would drive a nice car. My kids would never have to worry about clothes or food. He said, but I never imagined that I would be able to do it and be home to see it and be able to take my kids to school, be able to, you know, drop my kid off and, you know, watch his football games and all that kind of stuff. And again, as corny as it sounds, like in that moment, it was like a lightning bolt, and all that fulfillment that I've been kind of searching for and wondering where it was when I was chasing the dollar. I realized that that's what gets my gears going, right? That's what gets me going as a person. So it was honestly at that moment when we had that conversation that I went, man, this is what I want to do. And it's not just in roofing, right? Like I'm going to grow the roofing company and I'm going to build this. I'm going to present a ton of opportunity. But my goal in general is to continue to grow opportunities. And that's it. If that's in this company, great. But there's a lot of other things that we want to do. And my wife and I feel very passionate about that. So we're looking at starting a company that I won't go into too much detail, but it's going to help younger people fresh out of high school or college learn how to be an entrepreneur and give them the opportunity to have skin in the game in their own business. And again, that's not for the money necessarily. It's more for, if somebody had given us that opportunity when we were 21, 22 years old, had we deserved it at that time, it would be life-changing. So that's why I get out of bed in the morning. And I always say I've had bad days for sure. Everybody has, but I've never had a bad day at work because I get to come in every day and I get to do what I do best. And that's, figure out how to create opportunities for other people and figure out how to create problem solving. And as far as I'm concerned, like that's, Steve Harvey says, if you're not living in your gift, you're doing it wrong. And I truly believe that my gift is that big picture, creative problem solving, creating opportunities for other people.
Awesome. Man, that's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah, Jordan, can I say one more thing, Lyndon, just to kind of tie this up? I know we're talking. I think at the end of the day, not everybody's going to have a story like that, but everybody has their own story. One tangible takeaway I would suggest, and I do this with any new team member that comes on, the first week, all we do is focus on their mindset and their vision. There's a book written by Simon Sinek called Start With Why. Mm-hmm. And then the second book that follows up, which is the actual work of Find Your Why. So you can't just read the book, you also have to do the work. The people that I've recommended that to and they actually did the work, find their why, and I talked to them a year later, 2 years later, their life has changed dramatically. And I can give you numerous examples. And Lyndon, to your point of how do you create that consistency, I've only found a person that creates that consistency is when they find the reason why they're waking up every morning. And sometimes it takes a while. I can't motivate anybody. I can make somebody show up for a smaller period of time. But no one's ever had to tell me to wake up and go to work because I knew what my big why, or what I wanted to accomplish, or why I was doing it. I think that's just a tangible takeaway, Jordan, that I want everybody to hear is if you're struggling or not sure, you want to know why wake up, start with why, and then move to find your why, which is the work that you have to do to find why you wake up.
Well, you kind of answered. I had two questions. One was books that you guys would recommend and why. But then the other one you kind of answered as well was because I don't think it's that hard to create a success, but I think it's hard to maintain it. And I don't think a lot of people can. It's easy to make some money really quick, but then it's easy to lose it. And so my question kind of for you guys, because Denton, you've been doing this for a long time. Chris on this journey. I mean, you're coming up on 5 years. And you've got big goals and everything like that. What would you say? I mean, I think you kind of said it with having your why, but I was going to ask, in terms of maintaining success and as the leader of the organization, because it's very easy to start slipping the wrong direction, but it's also easy to make sure you continue to maintain the right direction. What's like one do or don't that you would say that someone, if they're growing their team and they're trying to build long-term success, is there a key to as the leader of the organization, whether that's like a mindset or just things to monitor and keep your eye out for? Yeah. What would you say? Like, what advice would you give around maintaining that success as the leader of the organization?
From being in masterminds and talk to a lot of people, be very clear where you want to head, where you want to go, what your goals are. I constantly have been challenged on that 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Because if you don't know where you want to go, then any direction is a good direction. And you don't know if you ended up in the wrong place till you land there, and sometimes that's too far gone. So just be as clear as possible with your personal vision and your company's vision on where you want to go. That way you can make micro adjustments. You're absolutely right, Jordan. You're going to get off track. If you don't get off track, then you're probably not pushing hard enough, to be honest. But you can get back on track. But you at least have to point the train tracks within a reasonable direction, right? Because if you don't, one of the, I like using all these terms, you're a wandering generality versus a purposeful specific. If you're purposeful and specific about where you want to go, the letdowns and the dissatisfaction and the frustrations are just little challenges on the way to the end goal. So be very clear on where you want to go. And that's why I go back to the book, start with why, and then find your why.
Well, I think in order to stay in the train tracks, and this is something that our team, because we did add on, in the last 6 months, we've added on essentially three more full-time people. And prior it was basically just me. And so I was kind of in my head, knew my numbers and everything like that. And so it was like, I wasn't hardcore documenting everything that I was doing, how many calls I made, how many appointments I did, all this. The number one thing that we started doing, thing that we're doing, tracking every number, tracking everything that the team is doing. And then like you guys talked about, it sounds like each of you guys at the start of every meeting each week, it's like you go through the numbers of the team. Because if you're not tracking those numbers, you don't know that you're slightly going off on the train tracks. But if you're tracking them, you can go, you can go, oh, boom, we got to make this adjustment and keep going forward. So for me, that was a huge thing, was actually tracking those numbers. If you're not doing that, you're missing the boat. I mean, that's such a huge thing.
What you measure improves. What you measure improves.
Well, there's another one that you can't manage what you don't measure. So if you're just kind of like what you said, Denton, if you're just kind of wandering around, and you're going to see success every once in a while, but you're not going to know why you were successful.
And that was me, Jordan, in my early years in life. I was just going, right? I wasn't tracking anything. So I'm self-admittedly, I was that person.
Yeah, my wife she's been a business owner for many, many years. She had a big fitness company, and she sold it back before COVID. And she always, at least weekly, if not daily, she says, inspect your expectations. And that's to everybody. If you're not inspecting what you're expecting, you're not moving in the right direction. And that's a big one, is making sure that you're tracking that progress. And to kind of expand on what Denton said earlier, absolutely having that clearly defined goal and vision of where you want to go. But, I'll add to that and say it's take your time to build the foundation of what you're wanting to do. Because if you don't build that solid foundation, it's kind of cliche, but it's easy come, easy go. If you make a lot of money really quickly, it's going to leave really quickly. And there's a lot of opportunities that you have to just get in and capitalize on something and do a smash and grab type operation, but you can't sustain that, and I think making sure that you take the time to sit down and do the work and make sure that everything is scalable. And this ties back into what we were talking about earlier. I talked about bringing on a production manager. Like when you look at our office and you look at our production manager and our director of operations and, everybody that we have in place to grow the team, it doesn't matter if we bring on another 15 people in the next 6 months or another 65 people in the next 6 months. Our foundation and our systems and processes are built so well that we don't have a realistic number of things that could be added to our plate that would derail our operation, because we've taken the time to sit down and we've taken those 2 steps forward, or 2 steps backwards, so we can go forward. And I think that that's another big part of the equation, is absolutely, know where you want to go and know how you're going to get there. And then be sure that you've done the work to lay the correct foundation, so you don't get halfway to your goal and figure out, man, we've got to restructure this organization because, we weren't planning on this level of income, production, success, whatever it is. And just making sure you've done the work up front. And it takes a little bit longer to get there. It could take you 5 years to accomplish what you may be able to accomplish in 3. But that doesn't matter if on year 6 you go out of business. It's nobody cares nobody cares how successful you are if it's not sustainable.
Right.
If you're a flash in the pan, you're a flash in the pan. That's what.
That's why it costs you multi-millions of dollars to buy into a franchise, because they've already laid the groundwork.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? It costs $1.5 or $2 million to buy into McDonald's.
Yeah,
well, Chris, that's kind of like my golf game. Every once in a while I can hit a shot just like Tiger Woods, but that's 1 out of 110. Right. So,
yeah. Absolutely.
That doesn't make me a great golf player because I hit one amazing shot.
Yeah, you can talk about that one shot all you want, but if that's the only shot you talk about, some people are going to stop listening.
Sounds like we should all forego golfing.
Yeah, we should.
I love that. Well, guys, I could talk to you guys forever. I love this topic. I love everything that we've been discussing. I know we're getting down to the last few minutes here, and so this is just super fun, man. Like I said, we'll have to do this again, but thank you guys for hopping on. And I think people, if they listen, man, they're going to get some great insights. And is that you guys are so open to sharing. And like even Chris, I told Chris I was talking to another roofing company the other day that was struggling working with real estate agents. He was like, bring him. He's like, send him my number. I'm happy to talk with him. I love that mindset. And I know Den is so open to sharing, and you guys are passionate about that. And so I want each of you, if someone wants to just thoughts on mindset, they want thoughts on growth, they want thoughts on maybe becoming a real estate agent or using you or becoming roofing and maybe join the team, whatever it is. If they want to get a hold of you guys, each of you quick, Den, Chris, how can they get a hold of you? We'll wrap it up with that. Yeah,
I mean, just here's my mobile number, 214-718-3854. Then my email, denton@dentonaguam.com. I think it's scrolling across the bottom. Just reach out to me. I'd sit down, no obligation, no cost, and we'll just talk.
Yeah, and Jordan, you're exactly right. I don't, one of the biggest things that I like to tell people is I truly have that abundance mindset. I don't look at anybody as my competition. I'm in competition with myself. And at the end of the day, with what I do specifically, there's so much opportunity in this region. If I were to get 1% of the entire pie, I'd probably go out of business because I'd be too busy. And I recognize that. So, I look at that, and I look at people who are wanting to get into the industry or who are struggling with their company or having a hard time building a team. Reach out to me. I don't mind telling anybody what we do. And obviously when I talk to somebody, there's a lot of times they call me to ask a question and I end up learning from them. So I appreciate both sides of that conversation. If anybody wants to get a hold of me, my company number is scrolling across the screen. My personal cell phone is 432-230-0874. And I'm available anytime. Just like Denton said, give me a shout. I'd love to take the opportunity to sit down and learn from somebody else and give the opportunity to save somebody some of my heartaches. I've got a guy that Jordan, and when he started his company, he put a thing out on Facebook that said, hey, I'm doing this, come join my team. And he was brand new owner. And I had made that same mistake, and it cost me probably 6 figures in my first 18 months in business. And I reached out to him and just said, hey, I'm not trying to tell you how to run your business. And I understand this probably sounds weird coming from somebody else who's competition, but man, here's the math. And if you look at it from this perspective, I think you're going to see that you don't want to do that. And, again, I'm not telling you how to live your life, but, I made that mistake and it cost me well over 6 figures. And you seem like a great guy and I don't want to see it happen to you. And to my knowledge, he implemented that change and it saved him a bunch of time and heartache. And that's what I want to do. I want to help everybody I can, even if they're competition or not. I want to help everybody I can.
I love that, man. Yeah. Love your guys' mindset. You guys are definitely people that I look up to and admire and respect. And so thank you guys for honestly hopping on and sharing some of that knowledge. Again, if anyone wants to reach out to those guys, they're happy to chat. Same with myself included. And Landon, man, thank you for helping put this show together as always. Appreciate the Difference platform. And if anyone is looking to find creative ways to reach their audience and bring on their team and bring on different people in the industry to share their message, Lennon's got a great platform to do that. So you can reach out to Lennon or I to talk more about that. But thank you guys. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Denton. Thank you, Landon. I appreciate you guys all so much. And for those of you watching and listening, we will be on at 11 o'clock next week. Rochelle will be on. And so thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see y'all next time.
Thank you.
Thanks.